You know that feeling on day 3 of a new school year? You've set up the classroom, the kids are in, the rules are already posted, the classroom contracts are made and hanging prominently in the front of the room for all to see. But then day 3 rolls around and those nudgy behaviors are starting to show up. And you're wondering, maybe you started smiling too early in the school year. Because you know that old saying, right? Don't smile till Christmas. Today, we're talking about classroom rules. I'll share my favorite way to create them each year, why classroom rules can fail, what makes them more successful, and a key question you can use in your classroom to help your students buy into the rules and help you to actually build a lasting classroom culture. Your first week of school isn't just going to feel good, it's going to set the tone for the entire year. Hey friends, welcome to Enjoy Teaching Again, the podcast for teachers who love the work but need a little spark to bring the joy back. I'm your host, Elizabeth Peterson, classroom teacher, arts integration specialist, and passionate educator of over 25 years. If you're overwhelmed by behaviors, disengaged students, and long, exhausting days, you are not alone. But together, we can turn things around and you can teach with confidence and purpose again. So locate that cold coffee of yours, find your favorite pen, I know you have one, and let's dive in. It's time to get inspired and enjoy teaching again. You know, there was a season in my teaching career when I was exhausted, and I mean bone tired. I was repeating myself all day long, managing and correcting behaviors instead of teaching, and just trying to squeeze creativity into a curriculum that not only felt scripted and stiff, but some of it actually was scripted. And I kept thinking, is this just how teaching is nowadays? At that point, I had just about, 20 years in the classroom, and I knew that I did not want to become the teacher who just went into work and survived until June. So I had to make a decision, and I decided to stop waiting for things to just magically change. And I decided to put into practice what I had been teaching so many other teachers in workshops and courses and retreats for so many years, and figure out a way to bring some of that creativity and that joy that we would have in those workshops, bring that back to my teaching, because I knew that I was going to be the only one who would be able to do that for myself. And that is when I decided to build a reset. And that reset changed everything. Slowly, I started to figure out what were the most important parts that needed to be reset inside my classroom. And every time I started a new reset in my room, my kids were becoming calmer. I was feeling confident again, and teaching felt creative again. I was actually smiling while I was teaching more and more. And that's why I've now poured everything that I've learned and everything that I put together for myself into the classroom reset. Now, if you're wondering whether it's possible to feel excited, yes, I said excited about teaching again, I am telling you it is. I want you to come and check out the classroom reset at theinspiredclassroom.com/reset, RESET, and see if this is your moment to reset your classroom too. The first week of school is so vital, and every teacher I know does something with rules. Whether you call it that or not, maybe you say expectations or a classroom contract, it points to the same thing: rules and behavior. Rules matter. It's not a dirty word. They are necessary to have no matter how you wrap them up, and they need to be part of your classroom. So they deserve some time to think about and consider as you move into a new school year. And if by chance you're listening and you've already started your school year or even well into it, I think it's worth noting that you can revisit and revise your rules any time you think it's needed. So I hope this is helpful no matter what time in the school year you found this episode. Now, by the end of our time together, I want you to walk away with 3 things that you can actually do this week that go far beyond that poster that you've got on the wall, including something that I do with my own students every single year that definitely changes how we look at the rules of the classroom. Now, somewhere along the way, most of us were taught basically the same formula, right? Create the rules, post the rules, attach the consequences, enforce them consistently, and the year is going to run smoothly. But reality check, even the most beautifully designed and posted rules, the most prominent display of the word respect, and even the classroom contract with everyone's signature, it still can fall apart by October, right? I mean, ask me how I know. Your rules, or whatever you call them inside your classroom, need to do something a little deeper. They need to help your students see your classroom as a safe place to learn. So I wanted to take this opportunity to help you reflect on and plan how you're going to set up your rules moving forward so that you are doing what I describe in my reset framework as establishing a caring classroom culture. So first, let's talk about rules by themselves. What's allowed, what's not allowed in your classroom, right? These are important things for your students, no matter what age they are, to understand. Rules can act as guidelines of how to engage in the classroom, how to interact with others, and of course, our favorite, how to behave in the classroom. And maybe you have things like, one person talks at a time or stay in your seat during the lesson. But what's actually going on here, right? And these rules, these guidelines on how to act in a classroom are so important, but they don't tell the students that they belong. And belonging, not just rule following, is what your classroom culture is actually built on. When rules are the entire plan, you end up managing the same behaviors over and over, wondering why nothing sticks. When the truth is, the rules were never going to do that job in the first place. It has to go deeper. And I think it's also worth mentioning this before we move on. I really believe at a certain age, definitely by 3rd grade and above, your students know the basic rules of school and how to act. And of course, there are going to be outliers, but you know what I mean, right? So spending too much time on the rules like, we're not going to hit in this classroom, we're not going to scream out loud, may not be as necessary as you might think. That might be something that you need a behavior plan for or need to address on an individual basis. But let's talk really about the classroom rules and how to go a little bit deeper so that it really affects the classroom culture that you're trying to create. Now, one way to go deeper is to build the rules with them, right? Not just go over the rules that you want, but spend some time working together to come up with your own set of rules for your classroom. And here's what I do every single year. On the 1st and 2nd days of school, instead of handing my students my list of rules or expectations that I've already come up with, we build a classroom contract together. And I do this by asking them one simple question. What do you need to learn? What do you actually need from this class, from each other, and from me to feel safe enough to actually learn here? And then I give each student 2 Post-it notes for them to write down 2 different things that they actually need. I collect the Post-its. We read every single one of them together. We start grouping them into categories of what my students have said. And their answers, they go up on the board, right? Not my rules, but their words. And we walk through it and we narrow it down together and we create the wording of the contract, and then every single student signs it. It becomes our classroom contract not just my set of rules. Maybe you do something similar, right? I described this whole process in a little bit more detail of how to create a classroom contract with your students on my blog. So I'll share that link in the show notes if you're interested in looking at my exact process with a couple of examples too. Now, here's why this matters so much. When students are helping to build the expectations, they're not just following a rule that someone handed them, right? They're upholding something that they were part of creating. And that's the important part. That's the path to ownership and belonging in the classroom. And it's very possible that you do something similar, but I want you to think about how can you build on that this year with the intention of belonging? Because if you're like me, sometimes even that contract can be lost in the day-to-day of everything that goes on. So give yourself permission to return to and remind students about that contract that you created together, right? Maybe this can be something you actually do, like you actually schedule for yourself to do during a morning meeting once a week, or at the beginning of your class time together at the beginning of every month. It's so important that you are using that classroom contract as a piece of your classroom that really instills belonging. When that happens, they really start taking a little bit more ownership over those things that you put in there. I've even had students point at the contract mid-year and remind each other of it before I even have to say a word. And that right there, when that happens, man, that's the whole goal, right? Ownership and belonging. Now, if what I described feels like exactly what you need in your classroom, right? This building real classroom culture instead of just managing behavior all day, I want to share something with you. I have a free reset roadmap that walks you through the entire 5-step framework to create a reset in your classroom. It includes the step that we're talking about right now, the first E that stands for Establish a Caring Classroom Culture. You can grab that reset roadmap at theinspiredclassroom.com/roadmap. And of course, I'll also link it in the show notes. Now, I have a little bonus for you. And then I want to share a rules action plan to help you dig into this idea of starting off with the idea of belonging in your classroom. Okay? So here's a little bonus. This works really well, especially if you teach older students, but I'm sure it can be adapted for just about any age group. Ask your students, if this were the last day of school, what would you want to be able to say about this school year? Ask them. Ask them that reflection question. Maybe you tweak it a little bit, right? Maybe you say something like, what would you want to have accomplished by the end of this school year? What do you want to have gotten better at? Or maybe you just say it clearly like this: how do you want to feel on the last day of school in terms of what you've been able to accomplish during the year, not just elation to go out into the summertime? So with younger students, this could look like a drawing a picture of like the future me on the last day of school. With older students, it can be you can go really deep with this. It can be a written reflection. It can be a great conversation. Either way, you're doing something beyond the rules, right? You're giving your students a reason to truly follow them. Does that make sense? It almost like connects their learning and their behavior together. The rules aren't there just about behavior, although sometimes we can feel like that it is. It's also about how we're behaving and conducting ourselves so that we can be the best group of learners and take ownership of our learning. And when a student has named what they want to feel and accomplish by the end of the year, behavior stops being about, okay, don't do this or make sure you do this, and starts becoming more about, this is who I'm trying to become. This is what I want for myself. And that is a completely different type of motivation and a different way to think about goals too. We can say that rules is all about behavior, and to a point, it is. But it's really something deeper. And when a student is dysregulated or defiant or shutting down, they're not thinking about the poster on your wall or the contract that's hanging that they happened to have signed on the first day of school when everything was all wonderful and fun, right? They're asking, underneath it all, do I matter here? They're asking, am I safe here in this classroom? And they're asking things like, does anyone actually see me? Now, a classroom contract that they helped build and a picture of who they want to become by June, that's just the starting point of something much bigger. And that's exactly what the Reset framework calls establishing a caring classroom culture. You can have the best behavior chart in the building, but without this foundation underneath it, you're just back to managing behaviors every single day, day after day, and it's exhausting. So, I have an action plan for you today, and it follows the letters of RULE, R-U-L-E. Okay, are you ready? So step 1, R, stands for reflect. Before you write a single rule, I want you to reflect. I want you to ask yourself what you actually want this year's classroom culture to feel like. What's your expectation of this school year? Maybe even ask, how do you want to feel on the last day of school? Consider, as you're reflecting on how you want to really set up these rules, do you want students to feel that belonging in your classroom, right? Do you want your students to have the opportunity to learn in a safe space? So do a little R, reflecting. Step 2, U, stands for understand. And as you go to your students and ask the questions, what do you need to actually learn here this year? I want you to lead into this classroom activity with the posture of understanding your students. So give them those Post-its, let them tell you in their own words so that you can really understand where they're coming from and what they actually need. Because here's the thing, you can't build a classroom culture around what you assume they need. You have to really understand where each of them is coming from, and that takes a little bit more effort on your part, but it's really, really going to be so beneficial. Step 3, the L in the word rule, is listen. Take what they've wrote, and as you discuss things, really listen to them. Read every Post-it. Group them into categories. Notice the patterns. And listening isn't just about listening with your ears, but really taking in the information and processing it inside your head. This is a step where their words become your classroom's words. It's not just collected, but it's actually heard and shaped into something that you can shape together. And the final step, E, in rule, stands for execute. Turn this into your classroom contract and have every student sign it. And by executing, this isn't just about the signing, it's coming back to it every so often, right? Bring it out during morning meeting, revisit it at the start of the month, point it out as you're taking attendance for the next class that comes into your classroom. Let it live in your classroom instead of fading into the wall. That's rule. Reflect, understand, listen, execute. It's not simply about rules and consequences. It's a process that starts with you, moves to your students, and ends in something that you both built and kept coming back to, helping you to truly start establishing the classroom culture that fosters care, belonging, and learning. I hope this episode inspired you, encouraged you, or gave you a fresh idea to try. And if so, I would love for you to take a screenshot and text it to one of your teaching buddies. I'm so grateful that you landed here with me today, and it would mean the world to me if you would leave me a review over on Apple Podcast. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll catch you on the next episode. This is Elizabeth Peterson reminding you to get inspired so you can be inspiring to your students and enjoy teaching again.